All right, welcome back into the program. You're listening to Jerod and Friends. I'm Jerod. It's my rules, my program. So you do what I say. But I might have to just step aside for this gentleman that I have on the line right now. My buddy, my coworker, Rich Zeoli. What's going on, brother?
Jerod, man, it's so great to be on your show. I love this.
I know, right? One time for Rich for joining us on the program today. And talking to us on his day off. What are you doing right now?
I'm changing diapers, not at the moment, but primarily now that since I'm a new dad and Patrick is now 2 months old, I change a lot of diapers, I make bottles, and I also watch college basketball. So that's kind of my weekend in a nutshell for you.
Did you get peed on yet?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I've been peed on multiple times. And we even bought these things. They're called TP PPs or something like that. It's like a little TP you put on, but let me just tell you, it doesn't work. He shoots that off like a cannon. So,
man, that must be like a rite of passage, though, when you get peed on by a baby.
You know, when that happens, I finally realize, like, this is what it means to be a dad. You know, I mean, all the holding and loving and all that stuff. It's only when he pees on you that you finally say, "Wow, I'm a dad." And wait till I tell you other stories off air, which the FCC won't let me tell you. But it's just to say this, Jerod, the process is very enriching.
Well, don't worry about the FCC because this is internet. You can do anything on the internet.
I can do anything I want.
Yes. Unlike your show, which is like your baby, brand new, you are the new host for 3 to 6 on 1210 WPHT. How does that feel? Do you
great,
become
man.
nervous?
I pinch myself every day. It's a great time. I mean, you were on my program as my producer for months, and we were on at night. Yeah. And I mean, how many times do we get bumped for some sort of sporting event? You know, some women's hockey or something, or curling event or something. This is great. The interaction with the audience, I love. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the show. So it's fun. The only thing I wish you were working on the show with me. Other than that, I'm having fun.
Oh, man. I mean, you know, you can talk to the powers that be. But anyway, what has been the biggest transition from nights to 3 to 6, afternoon drive? Well,
I follow Rush Limbaugh. But, you know, Rush does a national show, obviously, and we are live and local on 1210. So I really try to, at 3 o'clock, bring it to something local, bring it back to a story that's going on either in Philly or Jersey or something in our area. Or if it is going to be a really important national issue that everybody wants to talk about, I just right away say, you know, give me a call, because the whole purpose is live and local. I want to talk to you, you know, and you're driving home and you're on your commute. So that's a big thing. Is the old days I followed a show that was also live, and following a national show is a little tough. Sometimes it takes a while to reset the phones and get people to call in, because Rush doesn't take a lot of calls on his show, you know. Right. So if you're listening to him first and then you listen to my show, it kind of goes from 0 to 100, because he'll maybe take 2, and I want to talk to 200 people during the show if I can. Yeah.
All right, let's jump right into it. I was at the gym when this was on, the State of the Union, and all eyes were glued to the TV watching Obama. What were your thoughts on his speech? He was kind of cocky, no?
He was. The New York Times put it well. He was at times defiant and combative. But you know what? Look, the president's a great speaker. He's one of the best speakers that's probably ever been in the White House. And everything that he says is deliberate. I viewed it as he was setting an agenda for beyond even the Congress, but the nation and 2016. Yeah. And I really think that he knows that the Republicans are not going to give him what he wants. So he's prepared to kind of have a showdown, which, look, he got a lot of criticism on both sides of the aisle for. You know, there's some schools of thought say he should try to be more like Reagan and conciliatory, or you know, like Clinton when Newt Gingrich and the Republicans took over the Congress. But there's other people that say he knows he's not going to get anything done, and why compromise when he can just have a message, an agenda, and he can continue to say the Republicans are standing in his way. Is he going
to be a lame duck?
Well, look, I mean, by virtue of the fact that this entire Meet the Press this morning was talking about 2016 and the Republicans in Iowa over the weekend, and I don't even think they mentioned Barack Obama once during the show. So, yeah, to some degree, he is a lame duck in terms of, well, I mean, he is because he's not running again. But even beyond that, Jerod, I think that in dealing with the Republican Congress now, it's gotten that much harder for him.
Yeah.
The best thing he could do would be to try to help get his successor in the White House. But this is interesting because I don't know if Joe Biden's his guy. If Joe Biden was his guy, he could probably do a lot to help prop Joe up, but I don't know if he is.
You don't think they get along? What do you mean?
Well, it's not that I don't think they get along. I mean, who couldn't get along with Joe Biden, right? He's Uncle Joe. I mean,
Right.
But yeah, I think the word is that, look, the Obama and Clinton have had a longstanding hatred between the two of them. They just don't really get along. He probably doesn't want to see Hillary in the White House, but it may be inevitable in his thinking that she'll get the nomination. I think his heart would be with more of an Elizabeth Warren. So in some ways, he could, I guess he could try to help make her look good going into 2016, but he may just decide to stay out of it.
All right, speaking of 2016, I know the Republicans are trying to go make a run for it. But the economy and everything seems to be, if you listen to, the news and you watch what's going on, economy's getting better, adding jobs, everything seems to be turning around. Gas is cheaper. How do the Republicans craft a message around that if everything from a Democratic president was getting better?
Well, it's the first thing they have to do is they have to identify with the millions of Americans that are in what being called the part-time economy, and there still are millions of Americans out there who have not been able to find full-time work. They stopped looking for jobs and they're no longer getting unemployment benefits, so they're not being counted in the overall unemployment number, which is part of the reason why the number's gone down. And so you have millions of people that might be working 20 hours a week is the best they can get, or 25 hours. The Republicans have to reach out to those people and say that they haven't been forgotten. They're not part of the forgotten economy. And that's going to be an integral part of their message. In terms of gas prices, by the time this election gets heated, I would love it if gas was still under $2 a gallon. I would love that, but I don't think it will be. I think you're going to see prices begin to creep up a little bit, and certainly by 2016, when you're in the muck of it, it's going to be probably more than it is now, I would imagine. So the Republicans have to go out there and they have to push for Keystone Pipeline. The Republicans have to push for more shale drilling and natural gas exploration.
Yeah.
They have to do those things, even if gas prices are low, because they have to say that all this money you have in your pocket, does it feel good? Well, our policies will let you keep more of it because we're going to continue to develop oil and gas, and the Democrats will try to take it away or raise the gas tax.
All right, I want to hone in on that because a lot of times people just identify with what their parents identify or the people around them in the community. What is the biggest difference between a Democrat and a Republican or a conservative or a liberal?
Well, in terms of Democrats and Republicans, I'd say not much. I mean, I think that there's kind of this one party that runs Washington, and I think they both do a great job of helping each other and their lobbyist friends and the special interests that help get them there. There was an article that came out the other day saying that Washington, D.C. is now the wealthiest area in the country. That swath of Maryland and Virginia is the richest people, and in Maryland, the highest concentration of millionaires in that Chevy Chase and Bethesda, Maryland area, Silver Spring. So there's a lot of money that people are making off of this gridlock that's been going on for years. And I think both the Democrats and Republicans are fine to do that as long as they get to stay and keep up with the party, which is why you're never going to see
the core principles, though. What about conservative and liberal?
Well, that's where I think you really have differences of principle, and it comes down to conservatives have a vision of limited federal government, and I think liberals look at the federal government as the answer to all problems, whatever the problem is, whether it's health care or it's marriage or it's kids going to college. They look at the federal government as the answer, and conservatives believe the federal government winds up making it a bigger bureaucracy and prices go up, and it winds up becoming a very ineffective and inconsistent system.
To push back on that, though, in the past, hasn't the federal government done a good job with like segregation and also with like gay marriage now, since the Supreme Court is now taking that up? You got to give the federal government some credit.
Oh, I mean, I do, but I have to recognize that the federal government, at least in the year that we live in right now, in 2015, is trying to do things that were never meant for the federal government to do. But let's look at the most recent proposal. I mean, free community college. It sounds great. I mean, free community college sounds amazing.
And I was going to touch on that because I'm a college graduate. And
yes, congratulations. And I have your your graduation gift I've been carrying around with me. So when I see you this week, make sure I give it to you.
Yeah, right, Rich. You know how many times I saw you around the station since I graduated?
I just keep forgetting, Jerod. It's just I'm getting old, you know?
All right, so free community college for everybody. That's what Barack Obama says. Why not?
Because it's the money's not going to the students. The money's going to the colleges. And the incentive for the colleges is to hire more professors, and the incentive for the colleges is to inflate grades, because they have to have everybody there getting a 3.5 to be able to keep getting the money from the federal government. So there's an incentive for them to inflate grades. There's an incentive also for them to continue to hire more vice presidents and deans and teachers, and it's going to make community college degrees less valuable if all of a sudden you start seeing what you see in high schools around the country, which is grades shoot up because they know that the grades are tied to the money, and so that degree when people graduate community college is going to be less valuable than it is right now.
But when you say, I mean, that's one way to look at it, but I know you would agree that a college degree correlates with how much money you make later on in life, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So,
I mean, it's a shame it does,
right,
but yeah.
Yeah. So what about people who can't afford to go to college and now they'll be able to? I mean, there's a bright side to it.
There's already mechanisms for them to be able to go to college and have it be affordable. There's been
grants and loans.
There's been grants and student loans, and the student loans have driven up the cost of college. I mean, the fact is the average cost of a year of college right now is $42,000 a year. And colleges know that they never have to worry about cutting costs to attract students because they have a guaranteed flow of students. It'd be the equivalent of if I was the only car dealership in the country, I would have no desire to lower my prices because I know that people are going to come and buy cars paid for by the government, so I can charge whatever I want. No one's going to compete with me, so I don't have to worry about lowering my prices, and I can just keep living the dream. But the fact of the matter is that every time the government starts putting students into the colleges on their dime, colleges can say, well, we'll just charge whatever we want for it.
Would this free community college drive down rates, though, since it would be more, as a competition to the schools like Temple and Drexel and stuff like that?
It would if it was going to the students themselves. But when the money's going right to the community colleges, put it to you this way, you're the president of a college, and you're getting all this money coming in now. Are you going to use it to what? What are you going to do with that money becomes the question. And I think what most colleges are going to do is they're going to beef up their staff. They're going to beef up their overhead. You know, all colleges. One of the biggest reasons why college has gotten so expensive is because college administrations have soared, and presidents and vice presidents of colleges get paid enormous salaries, and they've also been building facilities upon facilities. That kind of gets away from the fundamental core message of education, but makes college very expensive.
It also went up, though, because a lot of funding, a lot of statewide funding has been cut.
Well, state colleges are, certainly depending on the state you go. I mean, in New Jersey, the funding was cut dramatically, but other states around the country, they continue to be a very good deal. I mean, they still are a good deal compared to, what it costs to go to a private college. But if you know that you are guaranteed to get money to go to college, and the college knows that you're going to come with a check from the government, which then one day you'll be paying back, then the college has no incentive to do whatever they can to possibly lower that cost. It doesn't matter to them if costs go up the next year because a crop of students will still come in with a check from Uncle Sam to pay the bills.
All right, let's move on a little bit. All right, so, these guys I don't know what's going on with them or what's on their mind. Radical Islam. ISIS just killed a Japanese hostage. What's your take on these guys and what's going on here?
Well, I saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar this morning on Meet the Press, and he was talking about the issue of how he as a Muslim is not part of this. He doesn't view them as being part of his religion. And I feel for him, I do, because I can tell that he's sincere in that belief. But the problem is that the people fighting certainly think that they are fighting in the name of their religion. And they believe guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are infidels because they're corrupting the Islamic faith. There's no central Islamic leader who can call for a summit. There's no pope in the Muslim world. But the people fighting this war are not ever going to stop because for them it's a religious war. It's not a state war. It's not a political war. The Sunnis, the Shias, This is about the interpretation of Allah. And by the way, that's been fighting this war for thousands of years. So I don't know how you sit down and negotiate with people like that.
I said on the other episode of my podcast that it just doesn't help when they do it in the name of Allah. But at the same time, they're not the only ones they're not the only extremists out there, religious extremists out there. I mean, you got Christian extremists that bomb abortion clinics.
Well, every couple of years you'll have one guy who bombs an abortion clinic, but there's certainly no organized movement by a nation state to protect people that do. And you've got countries in the Middle East that are theocracies. They are run as Sharia law Islamic countries where the religion is the law. And they do shield the Taliban, for example. Pakistan gives safe haven to the Taliban. And Yemen and these other countries that do. And so, you know, the United States, if somebody bombs an abortion clinic, that person's going to get arrested. That person's going to get charged with murder, rightfully so, and sent to prison. We don't, as a philosophy, advocate a law that says go out and bomb abortion clinics. In those countries, their law says if you violate Islamic law, if you publish a cartoon of the Prophet, that is a sentence punishable by death. A guy this week in the United Arab Emirates was flogged publicly 1,000 times for criticizing his religion. That is his state government publicly flogging him 1,000 times in public, and then he's going to serve a 10-year prison sentence for the crime of speaking against his religion. So, no, I don't think you can compare this to any other religion in the world right now, because this is the only organized religion that is a state-backed religion that is committing acts of terrorism in the name of their religion.
Are we at war with Islam, or are we at war with extremists?
Well, we're at war with extreme Islam. I mean, radical Islam. That's what we are at war with. Because
what's the big deal about Obama coming out and saying it? What's the big deal about him saying we are saying Islamic extremism?
Well, I don't know if he has, and it's the same thing with his predecessor. I mean, Bush didn't say it either. After 9/11, Bush never used the words Islamic terrorism in his speech to Congress, and Obama doesn't do it either. I mean, look, I understand why they don't. By the way, it's because they want to build the support of the moderate Muslim community in America to help them, and so they don't want to go out there and make it seem like we're fighting Islam. But the reality is that there is a certain thinking within that religion that believes that killing in the name of God is a worthy endeavor. That is something that they're supposed to do. There's also a belief that people like us who are even having this conversation should be killed because we are blasphemizing their religion.
I said this is the internet. Anything goes, Rich. Anything goes. All right.
Well, they're blasphemizing their religion. What do you want me to say?
All right. So, like I said, just moving on a little bit, the Supreme Court is taking up gay marriage. Is this a big deal?
Yeah, it's a huge deal, and I read the Constitution again this morning, and I can't find the word marriage in there, so I'm going to be kind of curious if the court rules.
Predictions?
Predictions will be that they rule that any ban on same-sex marriage is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. But I don't agree with that because the 14th Amendment was created so that African Americans could have the equality, not people of the same sex to get married. I have no problem if states want to legalize it, don't get me wrong. But there's this idea of the federal government coming around and legalizing marriage is not something that's in the Constitution. And look, this is where, as a conservative, I get pissed off because the federal government has no objective, no say over marriage. And this is a state's issue. It's going the way of gay marriage around the country. So in time, I think states will legalize it.
Isn't that the same excuse that they use, though, Rich, for desegregation and instances like that? It's a state issue. Get out of here. We know how to run our state.
I mean, if you want to look, if you want to equate the struggle of black people in this country to the struggle of gays, I guess you can. But, the problem is there's a lot of African-American religious leaders who don't believe in gay marriage and don't want it forced upon them or their community. And it's, the question is, who should make that decision? Should it be the people at the polls? Should it be the states? Should it be the Supreme Court or the federal government?
Or a politician in a suit?
What's that?
Or a politician in a suit.
Or a politician in a suit. I would rather it be decided by the people than handed down in a 5-4 split Supreme Court decision.
All right, where's Hillary in all this? So did she disappear? Did she do a magic trick? I haven't seen her in a long time. Where is she?
Yeah, Hillary Clinton should be kind of quiet, right? I mean, the Paris terrorist attacks, and she didn't say a word.
Is this a strategy? Is she trying to stay out as long as she can? Wait, hang on, Rich, you're breaking up.
I think it's a strategy for her because the Republicans started their primary circus now. And so, let them start going after each other, and then she can kind of stay in the background. She's not going to have a real primary challenge, so there's no reason for her to come out now and start saying things.
Do you think she's the what's her future in 2016? What's going on?
I mean, I guess she's the heir apparent. It seems to me like it's the Democrats have already anointed her. Which is crazy because I don't really think that she identifies with a lot of what the values of the current Democratic Party is. I think she's a lot more to the right of a lot of people. It seems like Elizabeth Warren is more of a mainstream, or I'd say the majority of Democrats would identify with these days. But I think Hillary has probably got the nomination locked up. Probably won't have a real challenge from the left. And it looks like it's going to be Jeb Bush on the right. So brace yourselves. It might be another Bush versus Clinton in 2016.
No Cory Booker in 2016?
I don't think Cory Booker, maybe as vice president, but it's certainly not. He won't have the nomination as the man.
Yeah, I heard rumors that he might wait until 2020.
Yeah, it's for Cory. He's going to have to make a decision pretty soon, though, about what he wants to be when he grows up. He's a very talented guy. He's doing really good work with Rand Paul right now, Senator Paul, on prison reform, which I think is great. And that's a good issue for him. But Cory's got to answer for, unfortunately, the fact that he's kind of viewed right now as someone who talks a great game but doesn't accomplish a lot, and that's something he's got to work on in the Senate. I think if he passes in signature reform, bipartisan reform with Rand Paul on this issue, it would go a really long way to help him. He's a good guy, by the way. I like Cory Booker.
Two things I wanted to touch on that you just brought up. Do you think it's beneficial for this is a trick question based on what you answer. Do you think it's beneficial for Republicans to be reaching out like Rand Paul to minorities like that?
Oh, absolutely. Rand Paul is brilliant in his strategy to do this. I mean, the Republican Party should be.
Is it genuine?
What's that?
Is it genuine?
Yeah, I think it is. Rand Paul believes in limited government, and if the government busts somebody who's black because they're doing drugs and sentences them to prison longer than a white person who's doing drugs, that's a real problem. And you have a federal government that has this gigantically high incarceration rate, and primarily the people in there are African American. And Rand Paul is the only one in the Republican Party who's making an effort to try to reach out to the black community, and I think it's the right thing to do. But the question I ask you is, I mean, why does the black vote in this country always go Democratic, considering the results in the cities have been pathetic? I mean, you've got Democratic rule in places like Chicago and Philly and other cities around this country for decades, and it doesn't seem to me like the blacks in those cities are living large.
Well, I mean, my thing is, while I can only speak for myself, I know that I vote Democrat is because no issues from the other side speak to me. It just seems like it's the opposite, is divisive, and I believe in a safety net, and I believe that everybody should get a fair shot. And it just some of the rhetoric from the other side it doesn't seem like that. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Probably not to you.
Well, I think it does. I mean, I think that the Republican Party has to be the party of explaining what they offer. They can't just always be the party of no. The former chairman Michael Steele, who's a buddy of mine, and he and I co-hosted some shows together.
Yeah.
I'm probably more conservative than he is, but his point was a good one, which is the Republican Party can't just always be the party of no, we're not going to do that. They have to explain what they offer and what they can do for people, because that's what people are looking for in politics, right or wrong. And I think that's a strategy that you're going to see more from guys like Rand Paul, who want to say what exactly conservative limited government can do for people, as opposed to what it won't do. What can it do? I mean, what can limited government do for somebody? That's a conversation that, if somebody can communicate that eloquently, could be a game changer in 2016.
All right. Just wrap things up. I know you got to go. But do you think that I sent you an article a while ago about criming while white, and this was all sparked off because of the whole police brutality that swept the nation. Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, and many more black males killed at the hands of police officers. Do you think that white privilege exists? Do you think that white people get more of opportunities? Do you think they get more of a pass just because of the color of their skin?
I mean, I guess, but, there's a lot of privilege that even as a white guy, I don't get to take advantage of. There's Ivy League privilege and people that get to go to Harvard and Yale and Princeton, and when I didn't, who get better jobs than me and make more money and have better contacts and access. And there's all kinds of various different degrees of privilege. I think the real question is what's going to be done about it. There's a real conversation going on, a good one, about the militarization of the police in this country and whether or not the police have changed their mindset from being to protect and serve to being this kind of us versus you war machine mentality.
Do you think that they have a preconceived notion of African American men?
I don't know, and I don't want to speak for them. I'll just say this: I mean, in Camden, you look at what's going on in Camden, New Jersey now. They have the chief there has their crime has dropped, and they've said our view is that we are here as partners in the community to get to know the residents and to protect them. So that's the kind of mentality you have to see. I think a lot of times race is thrown up in these matters as the easy thing to do. But you just had in Bridgeton, New Jersey, you had an unarmed black guy killed by a black officer. So, is that a racial thing that happened there, or is that because the police need better training, or is that because the guy was really guilty? I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think you got to see in the investigation. But how do you make a racial claim when you have a black officer who shoots an unarmed black guy?
I don't know, but I do know that Rich Zeoli is on air every single day, Monday through Friday.
Every day, baby, Monday through Friday.
He's not going to get knocked off for some football game or whatever, or some baseball game. He is going to be
chess finals. The Belgium chess championship won't be knocking us off this year. It's great.
Oh man, well, thank you for joining us. Congrats on your new show. Congrats on your new son. And I need my gift.
Oh, absolutely. This week. You're getting your gift this week, my man.
One time for Rich Zeoli for coming by the program. I really do appreciate it. And rest up, because I know you got to come back to work tomorrow.
Thanks, Jerod. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
All right, I'll talk to you later.